What if Japan won World War II? Although Japan sought to carve out their own empire in the Pacific during World War II, their plan was doomed from the start of the war in 99% of realities. As we all know, after two suns were dropped on them and they were occupied by the United States, their plans of becoming a military superpower were crushed. So I had to change their direction before the war even started. This is a continuation of the first video in this series. What if Japan invaded Mexico in 1941? I highly recommend you watch it before this one to be caught up. If you don't feel like you need it or need a refresher, here's a quick rundown. Japan invaded Mexico instead of China in 1941, which the Americans joined in on. Due to continued support by a stronger Japanese empire, the nationalists came to rule China. As Japanese sympathy ran high in America, FDR did not win in 1940, and an expansionist leader did. Japan and the USA proceeded to divide the Pacific as the Allies were distracted with Germany back in Europe. India and Pakistan became independent due to Japanese-supported revolts, and the former became a communist dictatorship. Canada, Greenland, and Iceland were also absorbed into the American Empire, Britain reluctantly accepting the annexations of their colonies. One thing I did not cover in the last video was the German invasion of the USSR. It started being unchanged with Hitler still invading them in Operation Barbarossa on June 22, 1941. By January, the Germans still lose the Battle of Moscow and are repelled. Throughout most of 1942, the key difference is that there is no Lend-Lease from the USA, which in our timeline provided a sizable portion of the Soviet supply of trucks, tanks, planes, aluminum, clothes, and rations. Thus, the German offensive is reasonably more effective. Combined with the capture of the Caucasus in August 1942 by Germany, Japan invades Siberia simultaneously, taking most land east of the Urals in a few months. Nationalistic China also takes regions of Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. With the capture of Siberia, the USSR's industry is severely weakened. In our timeline, over 1,500 factories for the war machine were moved from European Russia to the Urals, or further east between 1941 and 42. Due to the speed of the attack, a third of these moved factories are destroyed before they can be re-evacuated to the west. The USSR does not go on the offense in 1943. Instead, they lose the Battle of Stalingrad. A less coordinated and supplied Soviet defense in 1943 leads to more land falling in the north and the capital Moscow in sight of German capture. With the encirclement of the city and its fall almost certain, Stalin flees to the Urals, greatly decreasing Soviet morale. By December, the Germans have won the city. The main job of the Allies before D-Day, heavily simplified, was to win back North Africa from the Italians. Due to Japanese meddling in Ethiopia and the Middle East, and India's independence and Canada's annexation preventing a large number of soldiers from joining the North African campaign in 1941, the British lose the Second Battle of El Alamein aimed at securing Egypt under their control in October 1942, with General Bernard Montgomery dying in the process. In late 1942 and early 43, Axis forces pushed Allied forces towards Cairo, the Allies winning the Battle of Alexandria and destroying the German African Corps. With their situation in Russia disabling Germany's ability to provide more troops, it is a slow counteroffensive eventually leading to the Third Battle of El Alamein, where the Allies successfully enter Libya. Combined with Operation Torch invading from Morocco and the invasion of Libya, Axis troops in northwestern Africa and Libya are both pushed back and surrounded in Tunisia with orders to stand their ground. Over 250,000 soldiers are captured, and Africa is finally under Allied control, again, by early 1944. In America, the 1944 elections begin. Albert E. Thomas, along with his VP Thomas E. Dewey, run for the America First Party, while Harry Truman and his VP Alben W. Barkley run for the Democratic Party. Robert A. Taft and his VP Fred A. Hartley, Jr. run for the Republican Party. With Wendell Willkie out of the running and Dewey under the America First Party, Taft, his father being former President William Howard Taft, was chosen as leader of the GOP. Taft runs on the promise of reforming labor in a post-World War II USA, with his goal to depose most unions not resounding with the general populace. Truman is an honorary successor as DNP leader to FDR, who has retired to political exile and refuses a few who call on him to run again. Truman's legacy is weakened by his predecessor's extreme political stunt, but he adapts a more moderate strategy and campaigns on usual issues, supporting a continued alliance with Japan, albeit more lax. Many Republicans do not support Taft and instead switch to the other right-wing candidate of Thomas. Incumbent President Thomas campaigns to again put America first. His continued policies include expanding agricultural industry and the use of free market economics. He's by far the most popular candidate. Truman is the second most popular by a far margin and wins some states along the East Coast. Duff wins some states in the Great Plains. As elections for senators and representatives also approach, Thomas released a list of names. In his first term, many Republicans and Democrats had shifted their allegiance to the AFP, but many had only done so after seeing the political shift in the party's favor and hoping to gain positions simply from supporting the most popular party. They quickly switched back to supporting the original parties upon being elected, which had caused a period of political chaos. Divisions generally died down as the minority who participated saw that it was ineffective. But with the withdrawal of America from World War II, correlating with the 1942 midterms, dissidents occurred again as many sought power in the looming uncertainty the new era tends to bring. This time, Thomas wishes to maintain security and America being put first in one blow. The list names over 100 candidates and/or former officials or dissidents or simply suspected to join the divisions. With the majority of the populace supporting Thomas and the AFP, these individuals are effectively blocked from being elected. Thomas's role as the protector of the nation is strengthened, and the party that did not exist until 4 years prior secures uncontested control of all three branches of the government. With trade liberalization occurring under FDR, Thomas's policy of free trade employed during his first term is only expanded during the second, and seemingly, the era created by the economic disaster that was the 1940 Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act is over. Suburbs initially came about as veterans were able to afford nice houses outside of the city due to military discounts. But with 10 times less veterans from a less turbulent war, this first step is never taken. Without suburban populations, urban and rural ones grow instead. Imports increase, particularly of Japanese automobiles. As a result of not losing World War II, Japan's industry does not falter and their victory only increases its growth. They are likely to become a contender with the USA regarding the production and advancement of computers. The Siege of Leningrad in our timeline lasted 872 days, was the deadliest in history, but in this scenario it is even longer and deadlier. With Moscow captured and Leningrad on the brink of starvation, German troops are sent to the USSR's second largest city and captured by May 1944. As Germany launches its attack on Leningrad, Finland rejoins the war against the USSR despite signing a peace treaty 4 years earlier. It does so to reclaim their recent losses and even more. In several months, they capture the Kola Peninsula and land along the White Sea. Resistance is fierce in the last stretch of the Urals, where most intact Soviet industry is located. With Stalin's capture and public execution, the fall of the nation is effectively sealed, with only some rebel forces fighting back, which are soon to be eliminated. Unfortunately, with complete control of the USSR, the genocide of Slavs only increases, with more concentration camps able to be set up, with no focus on a war in the East. In October 1944, after nearly a year of planning, the joint invasion of Italy under Operation Avalanche and the bombing of oil fields in Romania and the Caucasus under Operation Tidal Wave and Operation Volcano respectively are launched. This greatly decreases Germany's oil production. By the year's end, Sicily falls to the Allies. With the fall of Sicily and the threat of a mainland invasion, King Emmanuel III arrests Mussolini. After Mussolini is rescued by the Germans and establishes the Italian Social Republic in the north, the south declares itself as a member of the Allies, and the Italian Civil War begins. Sardinia and Corsica are liberated during the same month of February. As 1945 drags on, Allied Italy makes gains on the western coast and captures the Norse capital of Rome by December. Though the war seems to be silent on most fronts, a plot is brewing that may prove to change the war in history forever. A British officer is captured by German forces in Italy carrying a note, simply reading Operation Reckoning, D-5. Thanks for watching this far. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and want more. If you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments. Is this how it would go down? If not, how? I enjoyed writing this scenario. Stay tuned for a new video, D-5. So who's next on the chopping board? Greenland.